She's patient. She's the Daniel Sturridge of the bird world. She's left it late, but what she's produced is absolutely fantastic.
What a start to the final show of Springwatch 2016. But it's not just hatching, there's also...
It's going to be wild and unpredictable right to the very end. Of course it is. It's Springwatch!
And welcome to our final show. We're here with you live at the RSPB Minsmere Reserve on this beautiful evening. We've had 3 fantastic weeks here, but it hasn't stopped. It's still going on, in fact. It's so exciting today, and there's so much to pack into the show. We better get started, in fact.
Better get started. You know, it has been a remarkable day. On several occasions, I've had to retreat to my caravan and mop my own brow. That's how good it's been.
No one else was going to do it.
No one else was going to mop my brow. This evening, though, we've chosen a new location to open the show. We've come down here to the reed bed. It's a very important part of Minsmere. These large tracts of Phragmites reed are play host to a whole range of specialist species. They're deliberately sculpted to that end. And what we've seen here in the past few days are things like this, bitterns, a pair of bitterns flying across. And here, marsh harrier. Only 400 pairs of these birds in the country. Very pleased to say there were 8 here at Minsmere this year, and the warden thinks they could produce as many as 14 young, which would be fantastic.
Nice to see the bittern. Haven't seen
much
not
this year. First year we saw a lot of bitterns, but this year not as much.
Now, the bitterns and the marsh harriers love this sort of area because it provides them with food, but it also provides secret places for them to nest. And that's exactly the reason the next bird we're going to look at comes here, the little reed warbler. Now, we're going live to the reed warbler nest. We've been watching this all day. Is there anything inside that nest? Can we see? No, it's gone. And it's only just gone, I have to tell you. Let's see what's happened during the day. Here are the chicks, 4 of them this morning. Here he is, this one warming up its wings, those flight muscles. It nearly falls out. A very dangerous game above the water, but it manages to struggle back up into the nest. When would one of them go? They're ready to go, and here it is, 8:37, and it's off. And look how athletic it is, bouncing away amongst the reeds there. So now there's 3. What's going to happen now? The parents trying to cool them off. I think the brother and sister get confused here. This one goes, they think it's got some food. That's gone. There are parents flying. Now, unfortunately, we missed the 3rd one going, but it definitely did go, and that let just the one. And this one sat here until tonight, less than 2 hours ago, when suddenly, in the end, it went and also joined its brothers and sisters somewhere hidden away in the reeds there. And here is an amazing thing. Those little birds, in about 12 weeks' time, if they make it, they're going to fly to Africa, 3,650 miles away.
It is astonishing, that, isn't it? Absolutely astonishing. Let's celebrate our super dad, our stickleback fish, son of Si. In fact, the camera is just over there in the water. I think it can see us. Give it a wave, Chris.
A wave?
If we go underneath the water, we can have a look at it live. Now, it's quite interesting, this, because it looks like a lot of the fry have disappeared.
There's 1 or 2, look.
There's 1 or 2 there.
But there were masses
Son of
earlier.
Si. Oh, there he is.
3 sticklebacks.
Now, that's interesting,
That's a
isn't it?
female. He's chased a female away.
He's chasing them away, but it looks like he might have chased some of the fry away as well.
Well, there is another reason, Michaela.
Yeah?
Because a roaring chump came along here and threw a load of bread on top of his nest.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was watching the camera about an hour ago and they did that. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't mention that, but thanks, mate. He doesn't eat bread. Sorry.
Let's see what happened to Son of Si last night, though, because he had a near dalliance. Here he is. All his fry are on the bottom, and he's protecting them. He's being the super dad that we know him to be. And then, well, a water rail came along. Fortunately, didn't disturb them too much, but something else did. And if we go underneath, we can see it's a female, and she's full of eggs. She's obviously very impressed by his fatherhood skills. Now all the fry are asleep on the floor, so what does he do? He's torn, he's got a dilemma. Does he go and enjoy the flirtations of the gravid female, or does he protect his fry? What would you do?
Well, we've all been there.
It's a dilemma. Anyway, eventually the urge to protect the fry wins, and he doesn't. Actually, he's not sure at all, is he?
No,
but eventually he chases her off because actually she could eat those fry. But what's interesting is 10 days after they hatch, he will chase the fry away so that he can come back and start again. So she was just a bit premature, wasn't she, really? If she'd come tonight when it looks like he has chased those fry away, then she might have been lucky.
Well, better than him.
What do you think those fry eat? To put you on the spot.
What do they?
I just
not
wonder.
bread, that's for sure.
Not bread, but the
Plankton.
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 I just seriously was wondering with those tiny fish what they actually eat.
Yeah, well, tiny little organisms in the water, crustaceal larvae and things like that. Insect larvae, maybe. Tiny midge larvae.
Sorry. Put you on the spot there. Sorry, mate.
Ever since we arrived here, we've been watching a nest, a sparrowhawk's nest. She's had 5 eggs. The problem we've had is we didn't know when they were laid, so we didn't know when they would hatch. It could be that they wouldn't hatch for another week. That was the case. Yesterday, however, we saw something extraordinary. They had started to make noises, which was a good indication, and then some cracks appeared. So we knew that we were finally in business. However, having consulted the experts and the books, it said that sometimes it can take 24 hours for them to hatch. Sometimes it can take 48. So when we came in this morning, we were desperate to see some action, and we did. She was really fidgety, jumping up and down, off the nest, back on. Now look very carefully. On the right-hand side of your screen, between the twigs there, you can see a little dimple has formed in the egg. See what I mean? She's pretty fidgety here. She was up and down like this all of the time. And then look at just at the lower part of her trousers there, that egg on the left-hand side, yes. The top of it. And there, she's picking little bits of the shell off. She's completely fascinated by this. And she's a young bird. For all we know, this could be her first clutch of eggs, and this is the first time she's seen one of them hatch. She doesn't know what to do. Should I incubate them, or should I just enjoy this remarkable moment? And then look, a bit later, you can see the chick struggling there to get out. Its head is on the left-hand side, tucked down underneath that other egg, and its tail end is in the back of the shell. Look at that, it's finally struggled out. It weighs about 11 grams at the moment, and of course, it's still damp because it's just come out of the egg, a little bit of moisture left in there. So she settles down to incubate, and then when she gets up again, she nibbles the shell. She wants to get that out of the way. She doesn't want it to stick to any of the other eggs. Otherwise, when they tried to hatch, they'd have to break through 2 layers of shell. It'd be a disaster. And then look at this. She picks up what remains of the yolk sac in there and swallows that. Nothing can be wasted. Down she goes again, but not for long. Nibbling on prey there. But look, the youngster is beginning to dry off. The shell's gone, she's got rid of those, dumped them far away from the nest so no predators are attracted. Now, this youngster doesn't need to eat straight away. It's got enough yolk sac reserves in its body to last at least 36 hours. And of course, initially when it comes out, it's very tired, it's very weak, but look at that. She has given birth to beauty. Oh, yes. Yes.
That is absolutely gorgeous to see, isn't it? And loads of people were watching it live on our online cameras, and I can't tell you how excited we all were in the production team.
Hatching.
On our last day.
Let's go live. Let's go live to the nest now. Look, there she is. She's still attending it, just settling down to incubate. Now, look, this isn't over. This is just one of the eggs which has hatched so far. For all we know, another one could hatch during the course of the programme. We know that 2 more now have cracks in them. so we must keep an eye on her. Might see another one hatching live on air. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That's a television first, I think, isn't it? I don't think we've ever filmed a sparrowhawk egg hatching.
How are we going to trump that?
I don't really know.
But do you know, isn't it amazing? Because last year, on the very last programme of the series, spineless size eggs hatched.
And
then,
other one.
yeah, then a couple of years before that, it was the common sandpiper, the eggs hatched on the last day. I mean, really, we couldn't write it. We've been really chuffed with that,
They've read the script, haven't they? Luckily, they've read the script, taken it on board. They have. Well, we'll obviously, as Chris says, keep an eye on the sparrowhawk throughout the programme, just in case something else happens. But first, let's catch up on the continuing story of our osprey love triangle, which is going on up in North Wales. Now, yesterday we saw how Monty, the male osprey, had sort of got together with two ladies. He was servicing two, wasn't he? Can I say that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was Glesney, who was his partner from the years before, and also a young incoming female, Blue 24. What happened next?
It's mid-April in the Welsh valleys of the Diffy Estuary. Both Blue 24 and Glesney are incubating a precious clutch of 3 eggs each. Yet Monty is losing interest in Blue 24. He stopped provisioning her with fish and she is getting hungry. No matter how much she begs, he ignores her calls, and worse, he takes the food away to her rival Glesney, who's sitting pretty on the main nest. Now, Blue 24 faces a dilemma. You see, if she leaves the nest to fish for herself, then her eggs might get cold and they'll be vulnerable to predators. But she can't stay there and not eat. Monty and Glesney have no such worries. They're sharing the parental duties. Monty even incubates whilst Glesney goes off to hunt. They've done this before in previous years, so they're well practiced at parenthood. No matter what the Welsh weather throws at them, they know how to keep the eggs at a constant 36 degrees to help them survive. But without a mate to support her, Blue 24 must journey out alone to the nearby river. And whilst making several trips a day to feed herself, the empty nest becomes a very tempting target. And sadly, while she's away, nest monitors photograph crows taking advantage of an easy meal. For Glesney, it's a very different story. On the 24th of May, her first chick hatched. Followed 5 days later by chick number 2. Delicately feeding them, Monty and Glesney will raise these chicks over the coming months, and there's a very good chance they could be the next fledglings of the Diffy osprey population. For Blue 24, well, her romance is over, and her chances of rearing chicks this year have gone. Maybe next year she'll find herself a more constant companion.
Very sad news for Blue 24, but these are long-lived birds, so she'll be back and she may get her chance next year. Now, hang on a minute, hold the front page. This just in from the Diffy Osprey Project. This has happened, this is on the 10th of June. Let's see how those chicks are doing. Look how they've grown. And look, Monty's feeding Glesney. Lovely to see, really bonding there. Now this is, what's that? Yesterday, see how the chicks have grown up. They look a little bit reptilian, don't they? But they're doing really well. Feathers coming. And look at those talons on them. This is the osprey's prime weapon there. They're specially designed for catching fish. They've got little barbs on them that allow them to grab slippery fish. And the pin feathers, they're coming through, and they too, not long, when autumn comes, what happens is that Mum and Dad will disappear back to Africa, and they'll wake up one morning, those little chicks, Mum and Dad will be gone, and they'll spread their wings and disappear off and migrate all the way to Africa as well. Amazing stuff. Now, you can go and watch those birds up at the Dovey Osprey Project. They've got a fantastic lot of cameras and a viewing platform up there, and there are lots of other places up and down the country where you can watch ospreys. Rutland Water, the place in the Lake District, loads of them, and there's links to those places on our website. And as a matter of fact, it's been a really good year this year for ospreys. There's up to nearly 300 pairs breeding, which is fantastic. Now, it's great to get out like this and watch wildlife, but it's also very good to bring the wildlife to you.
Last year, the Avon Wildlife Trust embarked on an ambitious project to join up some of Bristol's green spaces and create a city-wide nature reserve.
Now, I was lucky enough to be involved with this great project right at the very beginning, and this is where it all started, in the front garden of the BBC.
The plan was to convert a virtually lifeless lawn into a rich wildlife habitat. A small army of volunteers and schoolchildren planted, built and dug this.
I mean, just look at it. What was just a sterile strip of grass is now loved. We've got lots of native planting to give the place structure. We've even got bird feeders under this glorious field maple. All good stuff. And over here is my favourite little bit. This is what we built with the children about a year and a half ago. Oh, it's heaving with woodlice. Look at that. Yeah, look. So if any of the children that built these were watching, see, it does work. So if you can resist the temptation to mow the lawn, you create a wonderful, moist, cool environment for invertebrates, worms, beetles, you name it. And when you've got those, it's a perfect place to forage if you're a starling.
Now, you might say there's nothing new about creating a wildlife garden outside an office. But bear with me, this really is a conservation project with a difference. The plan is to create wildlife corridors through the city to the surrounding countryside. In nearby Gloucester Road, one of Bristol's busiest high streets, the next phase of this radical plan is being put into action. Matt Collis is leading the Wildlife Trust team.
So Matt, this is great.
Yeah.
So where does the Wildlife Trust fit into this?
So what we've been doing is doing lots of demonstration projects showing how you can change any space, anywhere in the city, into somewhere that's got some value for wildlife. What we did is approached every single business on this stretch of the street and said, hey, what would you like in front of your shop? You know, would you like it to be a little bit more green and a bit more appealing? All it is a couple of planks of wood. You can reclaim them from a local wood recycling place. It's topsoil, which you can look for advertisements for. And then it's just about going to a local plant centre and saying, hey, can I have some plants? I've got a lovely community project.
Just brushing against these thyme plants, getting all the aromatics of these plants are coming up.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't smell like a city all of a sudden.
No, and that's what we want to do, is we want to give it multiple purposes. You know, it's not just about the visual impact for pollinators and providing that nectar, but also just trying to improve the general feel. You know, we want to know, is this going to increase people's shopping experience here? You know, are they going to be more likely to shop here? And if we can prove that and people say yes, what a great way to sell it back to businesses to make it spread across the city or even other cities.
This green corridor is gradually growing longer on this 2-mile stretch of road, and it's ideal for pollen and nectar-loving insects. As a wildlife lover, I can really see its potential. But I wonder, how is this going down with the locals? One of the driving forces behind the project here is shopkeeper Sarah Thorpe.
Everyone loves it. You get sorts of keen gardeners who say, well, I've got a cutting I could bring and help you put there. Or I've got some seeds. And then we get people who just rolled out in the pub on a Saturday night, and they love it as well.
There's loads of great plants there. Not all of them are what you'd call wildlife plants, but they've all got some kind of a value. We've got a scabious there, which is great for the bees. Little marigolds, good for the hoverflies. And of course, these are chives, aren't they?
Yep.
These are brilliant for the bees. They like them as well.
You know what I've left down there? Because I read that bees love dandelions, and I've actually left that dandelion down there.
No, don't tell the council. Don't tell the council.
This is our land.
There's a wild flower down there. So this project literally is growing in more ways than one.
What I would like to see is just like high streets up and down Britain. Take part, join in.
I'd watch this space, I think.
Yeah, spread the word, spread the word.
Now, this is a great project in a commercial street. You might think, well, that's where the money is, where the backing's going to come from. But there is yet another street in Bristol, not a million miles away, that's residential. And it might give you some ideas of what you can do where you live.
Street residents, the Nunes family, are already seeing the benefits.
How many people have done this?
Almost the whole street, not all. I think 30 houses.
30 houses?
Yes.
What have you got in the corner there?
Yes.
So behind the wheelie bin, this is brilliant, because if
Yes.
someone said, oh, if you lived here and someone said put a pond in, you'd go, you're having a laugh. But look.
It's a little pond there, yeah.
But it looks lovely, and this only went in last year, and it's already established. It looks natural.
Yes.
Well, this will be flowering soon, bring out all the
yeah,
bees. It's
very
just
beautiful,
beautiful.
yes.
It really does inspire.
I think another really nice thing is I can see people smiling when they walk. That's
Yeah.
nice.
And it's just beautiful, and it's working. It's clearly working.
This wild street is perhaps the most important part of this city-wide scheme. It's proof that all of us can make a difference.
Wow. Inspired, I've seen the BBC turn into a veritable wildlife jungle. I've seen a shopping high street turn into a wildflower meadow, and I've seen a pond where before there stood nothing but a wheelie bin. This stuff is brilliant for us. It's soul food. It's a great way of bringing together community, and of course, let's not forget the benefits it brings to the wildlife. So why don't you do something great?
It's like that a lot. A little dandelion growing there. I know it's just one dandelion, but that might just be enough nectar to keep a bee going for 10 minutes. And that little pond, I know what you're thinking, that's not a pond, it's a bucket. But a bucket can make a difference. And in fact, a testament to the project put on by the Avon Wildlife Trust can be displayed on this map. Martin, each one of these is someone that has engaged with this project. This is a map of Bristol. And look, it's splattered. You can barely see the city.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And there's one particular area, it's Bedminster, that the Wildlife Trust are working with. And I just spoke to my mate Angus, who lives in Bedminster. They're all doing it down there. And he said, great thing about the houses there, they're quite sort of Victorian, they're quite leaky. So bats can go in and roost in there. And he's got lots of house sparrows in there as well. So, yeah, it's a great project. You can get involved. It's really excellent. Oh, hang on. Can we go live to a marsh harrier? Oh,
There it is.
There it is, marsh
There it
harrier.
is. In front of the bush there.
Yep. I wonder, will they hunt off a bush, Chris? Or
Well,
only... No.
sometimes, but more often you'll see them quartering backwards and forwards,
Okay, yeah.
listening, because they've got big ears, just
Okay.
like
Let's have a look.
owls.
There it is.
This is what we got just a few moments ago.
It's doing just what you said. It's quartering, Chris.
There it is. Oh, they're two together.
Two. They look so...
So this is it. They sort of drift backwards and forwards close to the reeds. They're looking down. They'll take anything from down there. Amphibians, young birds. They'll even... Oh, a bit of conflict too.
Now that's interesting. Has it got something?
Good stuff.
Very good. Bit of conflict.
Potentially, but a
Potentially,
territorial
yeah,
dispute there. They are territorial, of
So,
course,
yeah,
at this
very
time
good.
of year. Anyway, getting back to the urban birds, before we
Yes.
were distracted by those marvellous raptors, one of the species that we frequently find in our city is the pied wagtail, and we've been following a nest here at Minsmere. In fact, we can go live to it now.
Let's go
And
in
it's
there.
just over here, quite close to us, in the barn. It's up there, see it?
I can see it. Yeah, I can just see it there.
And the adults have been bringing in masses of food.
Okay.
The little
I've had the
chicks are in
chicks
there at
there.
the moment, look.
We've seen the adults just flying around here, bringing in food. Let's see what they've been getting up to in the last 24 hours. Oh, not 24 hours, earlier than that. They've got five eggs originally. Now, it's difficult to see the difference between the male and female, but they've been very solicitous, looking after the eggs, and they're hatching out, you can see. Take that shell away, and here are the chicks. And they've been, I can't see how many there are, Chris. There's just five.
I think there were
in there.
five, yeah.
And you'll often see the and the wagtails going down there, picking up insects from the ground around the nest. Once again, insects, critically important, and then flipping back up into the nest up there. And they're doing very well, and hopefully they'll hatch out.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Very, very good.
Hatch out like our sparrowhawks. Let's go live now to see what she's doing. Well, she's incubating again now. One of the eggs has hatched, 2 of the others have cracks in them, they're in the process, and I can tell you the reason they don't all hatch at the same time is that they want the young to be different sizes, so that if food supplies run short, the weakest one will die first and quickly. If they all hatched at the same time and she was feeding them all equally, it would take longer for the weakest one to die, and therefore she'd be wasting food on it. So the whole asynchronous hatching is a strategy designed to get the strongest chicks out of that nest.
It sounds harsh, but it's actually a really clever strategy to maximise the number of chicks that'll get through.
Yeah.
So that first one out is the luckiest.
Probably the luckiest.
Probably the
luckiest
yeah.
one. Now, that female sparrowhawk has done something great, and I've got to say that following our campaign, you've been inspired, and across the country, a lot of you have been doing something great too.
It all started at Easter on a beach in Wales. Since then, Martin has been mucking in at Minsmere.
I'm going to join in the RSPB survey. I'm not alone here. There are other volunteers all around the reed beds.
While Nick Baker has gone further afield, discovering exciting projects, inspiring people and meeting magical wildlife. Up and down the country, people are getting stuck in nature reserves, in the community and closer to home. It's great for nature and it's great for you. So find out what's going on in your neck of the woods and get involved.
There's projects just like this happening all over the UK. And if you want to get involved, you can. So if you're enthusiastic, you love your wildlife, why don't you just look at it? Why don't you just go out, find a project like these and do something great?
It's fantastic to see so many of you get involved, and you can still get involved because of course Do Something Great doesn't just last for the 3 weeks of Springwatch, it lasts for the rest of the year. In fact, it lasts forever. You could do something great whenever you like. Now, I've come down to the beach and this is where Martin was last week, and he introduced us to a little bird that nests on the shingle here, and it was the ringed plover. It's a sweet little bird, it's so well camouflaged, and it builds this very unassuming little nest. It's just like a little shallow scrape. And there's one of its chicks, just hatched, popping out. This is what we saw last week. They're precocial, so as soon as they hatch, they run off. We saw 2 of them. They're like little wind-up clockwork toys. And they're off exploring their surroundings straight away and using that little stubby bill to peck whatever they can see. But it's great to see them. But you know, they are extremely vulnerable on that little beach. So did they survive? Well, let's have a look, because this morning one of our cameramen came down and he spotted the chick. Now we know this is our chick because actually there were only 2 pairs of ring plovers on the beach, and only one of them had chicks. And so this is the only surviving chick. We presume the other one got predated by gulls. But it's about 2 weeks old here. You can see it's grown. It'll stick around with the parents for another couple of weeks, and then it'll fledge. Typically it'll leave the parents and move towards the estuary over the winter, away from the reserve. But that's a good news story because, as I say, they are extremely vulnerable on this beach, so it was fabulous to see it this morning. And I thought it'd be great actually if I got my binoculars out to see if I could see one on the beach, but they are extremely difficult to see because they're small and they're very well camouflaged, so might need an extra pair of eyes and binoculars. And oh my goodness, somebody's here, and look who it is! It's Yolo!
Hello, Michael, how are you?
I guess the birds aren't all round your feet like they were in the farms,
Do you know
are
what?
they?
I can't find a ring plover anywhere. They were everywhere in the farms. What's going on down here?
There was an abundance of bird life up there. You had an amazing time. You're going to give us an update. First of all, what about that Arctic tern, the record-breaking Arctic tern?
Oh, what a beauty she was, wasn't she? 96,000 kilometres. Amazing. All the way down around Africa, into the Indian Ocean, down to Antarctica, and then back to the Weddell Sea, and then back up again. Amazing, amazing bird. She is still incubating 2 eggs. She's still sitting tightly on those eggs. Now, about half of the Arctic terns have hatched now, so we're expecting her to hatch probably any time over the next 2 or 3 days. We certainly hope so. After all that effort, after going so far, we really hope that the weather holds for a and that she can rear some young for us.
But she really is a record-breaking bird, isn't
yeah,
she? I mean, there might be birds that have flown further, but they haven't been recorded.
No, that's right, 96,000 kilometres. And she weighs just over 100 grams, that's it. Amazing bird, amazing bird.
Yeah, look, I've got to tell you, there was a lot of people talking about your hat. I mean, look at that. That's a work of art. How many birds have pooed on that?
This is a proper hat. I saw your hat, so that was fake poo, I could tell. Look at that. See that Arctic tern poo on there? That's black and gold poo on there. See, that's a proper hat.
But there's a reason that you have to wear those hats, isn't there?
Very much so. On the boardwalks, on the fans, you've got nesting Arctic terns everywhere. You can see there, I'm walking along and I'm being mobbed constantly. What these birds are doing, of course, is that they are defending their nests, whether they've got eggs or chicks, and they are ferocious in the way that they defend those nests. I had one perch on my hat and peck away like a woodpecker, and let me tell you, it does hurt. When I went up there, I had a full head of hair. Look at me now, look at me now, I'm bald.
Is that the excuse?
It is. It's Arctic terns, that is. It's Arctic terns, but they're fantastic birds, you know, and very good mothers.
I remember going to the Farne Islands, actually, and you have to, if you haven't got a hat on, you have to do this, because they are vicious, aren't they?
Hat is essential. As I say, not only do they attack, but as you can see, they also poo on you as well. It's not very pleasant.
Listen, Yolo, we've had the sparrowhawk hatch today.
Yeah.
So are you going to give us good news about the puffins?
I have got very, very, very good news for you. Yes, I have. The log pile puffin, one of the rangers was walking past on Tuesday. He saw an adult bringing in fish. So we went in, we had a look, and this is what we saw. The egg has hatched. The egg has hatched. We looked in, of course, this is a log pile pair, not in a burrow, but in a log pile, and you can actually look in. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's fabulous news. And I've now got an excuse at last, Michaela, to say the word puffling. They have got a little puffling, and they're bringing back like the beak full of sand eels there to feed the youngster. We reckon that is maybe 4 days.
Of course, they look nothing like the adult, do
Oh,
they?
no,
It's
no,
like
no,
a little
no.
black bundle of fur.
Yeah, but they're very cute. And I've got even more good news. Even more good news. Our burrow cam pair hatched the day before yesterday. The egg started to crack at midnight, and by 11 o'clock, there you go, you see that crack, and you can see the egg tooth in there, and the adult's getting very agitated, moving that egg around, and by 11 a.m. it had hatched out, and there's now a fluffy little puffling in there as well. And even though the weather's not great up there, I'm told that there's plenty of fish, so those puffins hopefully will survive. But that is brilliant news. And isn't that brilliant? In the very last week, both of them have hatched out.
It makes me laugh because our sort of star birds have waited until the last couple of days to hatch.
I've got no nails left. Look at that. I go like this every single day. But it's brilliant news. It is great news.
We thoroughly enjoyed your time up on the farms, and it's a great place to go. I know we're supposed to be looking for this little ring plover chick, but to be honest, Yolo, I don't think we stand much of a chance, do we? So instead, fancy a swim? Come on, I'll race you to the beach.
Michaela and Yolo go skinny dipping. Read all about it. Now, earlier in the series, we were watching a blue tit that was raising a brood of great tits. In fact, we became preoccupied by that, and we rather neglected our great tits feeding great tits a typical nest. Well, let's go live to it now. We've been seeing this nest fledge in the last couple of days. Only 2 unhatched eggs in there. So what's been going on? Well, they have been fledging. And here we have the adult bird going in, teasing them out, as is the practice. She leaves. Pretty soon afterwards, one of them thinks, time to get out into the big wide world. Squeezes out through the hole and successfully makes it to the tree. Pretty soon after that, this one jumps up. Little look round, off it goes, makes it to the branch, which is perfect. Doesn't really want to be on the ground at this stage. And that just leaves this one here. A little bit later, this one, oh, it's missed the branch, has gone down onto the ground. Now, of course, the adults will be feeding all of these birds. Ideally, they want them up in the trees like this. They're safer up there. And so the answer, if you can't fly up, is to scramble up. And that's what we saw happening. I'm pleased to say, the last time we saw these birds, they were all still being fed by their parents there. So a successful fledging, and the adults have done a great job of feeding them. Now, we've been thinking a lot about the adults providing food for their young here. All of the species that we've been looking at have been doing that. So now, I'm going to present you with something very special. Oh yes. Beneath this cloth is the mother of all bar charts. Just brace yourself for this. Oh yes. Come on. Oh, yes. This is our super parent bar chart. So exactly what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what we've done. We calculated on the very best day of their foraging, the day when they got more food than on any other occasion, the weight of the food that each parent brought in. And then, to make it fair, we divided it by the weight of that parent. So this is a way, if you like, of generating the relative weight of food provided to the young, and we can therefore see which of these parents is doing best of all. Well, let's look at the great tits to start with. Let's just take this off of here. So here our great tit is scoring a 4. Is scoring a 4. OK. What about our little owls? Let's go live to our little owls now, because there's no doubt whatsoever that our little owls have been doing a fantastic job of supplying food to the youngsters. Here's one of the youngsters. There are 3 in there. They're all prospering, I have to tell you. And we've seen all sorts of things brought in. Insects like this cockchafer here, and also plenty of small mammals. That looks like a vole. So our little owls have been tremendously busy. On one night they brought in, I think it was 116 different feeds. So you would think that they are going to score very highly when it comes to being a super parent. Quite low. Lower than the great tits. Now why is that? Well, I've got to tell you this is possibly, and embarrassingly, a statistical anomaly. And it's due to the fact that many of the things that they bring in are low in weight. So they're going for numbers, not bulk. Let's move on to sparrowhawks. And in this case, we're interested in the activities of the male bird, not the female. The female's been incubating those eggs, but he has been enormously busy. Here with a great tit. Now, typically male sparrowhawks, when they're feeding the female, will bring in about 5 items a day. On his best days, and there were several of them, he was bringing in 10. So surely the sparrowhawk is going to score more highly than both of them. When you divide the weight down, he's still not doing as well as the great tit, which moves us neatly on here now to our blue tit. And this is the single parent raising this brood of great tit young. And she was in and out, bringing in huge numbers of caterpillars. And we regularly counted her visiting that nest box more often than both of the great tit parents put together, just the single mother. So let's see how she scores. She actually just beats the 2 birds here in the great tit. So one bird here, when you think if there were both of them provided, this would be up here somewhere, is doing a remarkable job. Let's move on to the stoats, because our stoat mother has been truly remarkable. She's been out and about all over the reserve. She's looked into every nook and cranny. She's pulled out woodpeckers, she's found rabbits, and then she's dragged them enormous distances all the way back to her kits. Yes, let's remove the gold card here to reveal the fact that our super mother 2016 is undoubtedly our female stoat. She's scoring more highly in terms of the food that she's bringing in relative to her body weight than all of the others. She is undoubtedly an action hero.
Our stoat mum. Just 30 centimetres long and with 8 hungry mouths to feed, her challenge seemed stotily impossible. We found her on the grasslands with its abundance of prey, albeit of the agile, jumpy kind. But our pocket rocket made swift work of bringing home the bunnies. But when the tables were turned, what this super mum did next was totally amazing. She gathered up her family and headed for the woods. You see, she was ready to raise her game. First, she tried to break into the blue tit box. Next, she set her sights even higher. The result was total wipeout. Then, with her family increasingly mobile and exposed to danger, she brought them right to our doorstep. Perhaps being near people would keep them out of trouble. After 3 weeks of mustelid mayhem, all 8 of her kids are on the verge of adulthood, and our supermum looks none the worse for wear. It's been quite a journey. You could say it's been stoats emosh, if you were a teenager or something.
Super stoat.
Fantastic.
She's great, isn't she? Absolutely great.
When you see a stoat, when I've seen them in the past, you get a glimpse. You don't know nothing like that.
I know. We've been so fortunate to be able to watch these animals. Now, we last saw her down by the visitor centre a couple of days ago, and we were wondering what had happened to her kits. She'd moved them again. She's been moving them throughout the course of the series. Well, I'm pleased to say that we found them. They're in an old rabbit burrow on the edge of the woods down there. And here they are, peeping out. Now, just look at this. This is an extraordinarily intimate view into the life of an animal, which, like you say, Martin, is so difficult to watch.
Don't see them. And they're just pure naughtiness, aren't they, in animal form, Chris?
They are very, very naughty.
Very naughty animals.
Now, at the moment, some of you might be tempted to think that they're playing.
They are playing, mate.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're
Okay.
practicing. They're practicing. They're probably establishing a little dominance hierarchy because there's going to be males and females in here. And the males are going to grow larger. At the moment, they all look about the same size, don't they? But all of this chasing and nipping and rough and tough. Look at that.
Look at that. 8 of them all together.
No. That is just glorious. Honestly.
Yes. Fantastic. If you put your hand in there, Chris, it'd just be a stump by the time you took it out, wouldn't it?
Look, she's
Look
doing
at
a
that.
meerkat. She's doing a meerkat.
She's looking for danger, I suppose, just constantly on the alert.
Yes, because we mustn't forget, although we've been talking a lot about these animals as being predators, they are also prey, of course.
Yes.
Foxes would have them.
Yes.
Buzzards would have them. But look at
So
that. Yeah,
lovely.
she's doing a great job. All 8 of them are here. Those 2 that got lost obviously met up with the others.
Yeah.
So they're all still together down in that burrow.
Oh, look at them
But this is it,
biting.
I think they're learning how to hunt
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
going to be hunting pretty soon.
Yes.
They're about 8 or 9 weeks old at the moment. By the time they're 10 weeks, they might be making clumsy kills. But by the time they're 11 weeks old, they're going to be making their own kills.
Their
Another
own
couple of
kills.
weeks,
Gosh,
these
couple
things
of
are going to be
weeks.
actively hunting. I wouldn't want to be a vole.
I wouldn't want to be a vole round here, mate, or a shrew.
No.
Would you? I mean, I suppose they are going to disperse. They can't all stay together. They will, I suppose, disappear all over Minsmere.
Yeah,
won't
they
in
will.
the
Well,
end?
the males are the ones that disperse. They'll move out. The females will stay in the natal area. So the males will move. On average, they live for about 1.5 years.
Only that?
Well, yes, on average. But, I mean, like most things, they've got to live long enough to breed successfully at least once, and that's long enough for the stoats to do it. But what an extraordinary privilege it's been to look at these animals. A great testament to the really hard work that our cameramen have put in, not only in terms of filming them, but the natural history skills too. It's been fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Fabulous. Now, a couple of nights ago, I was trying to introduce you, I did introduce you to a nightingale nest. We managed to get a camera on it. Let's go to that nest live now. Oh, dear. There's nothing in that nest. Now, you might think, oh, they probably fledged. Well, they didn't fledge. Something else today, just a matter of hours ago, happened. High drama. Now, here's the nest with the chicks in there, looking all content. Listen to that alarm calling. Here's an adult coming in with some food, but it notices something and it gets very agitated. Look at that! Look, there it is. It's an adder. Both parents now. I mean, what can they do? This is a venomous snake coming in to have a go at the chicks. Can they fend it off somehow? It could... Oh! Let's have another look at that.
Look at that.
The parent actually comes in beak first and whacks that adder on
Right in the head, right in the head.
What a brave animal that is. Now, the chicks, meanwhile, have all flown out of the nest. Well, they've leapt out of the nest. They had to get away from the adder. The adder's not going to give up.
Another go.
Still attacking. I think that's a female adder, isn't it?
Yeah, they look like that.
In there. I mean, she needs to feed, but the parent's back in, wondering, where are my chicks gone? Adder's still there. And of course, the adder can sniff around. It can use its tongue as it goes along, sniffing the air, trying to find out where those chicks might be. It tastes the air, literally, with its tongue. Well, they've gone, all the chicks. It was a bit early for them to go. They weren't quite ready to fledge. So what on earth is going to happen? I mean, until we had the cameras on the nest, I don't think we realised how arboreal the adders were here, did we? That they actually went up quite high.
When you think
in trees.
about it, over the last few years, we've seen adders going into all sorts of nests. And previous to that, if you looked at the textbooks, they say occasionally take ground nesting birds, but these things have been right up in the brambles, haven't they?
I've got to give you an update. We've heard the nightingales down there singing, well, not singing, but calling. We've heard the chicks calling as well. And it's very likely that inside the dense bush, the adults are still managing to feed those chicks.
It's part of the strategy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Although they're not ready to fledge fully, they will scatter if a predator turns up. And the adult, it's a little bit more difficult for the adults, they've got to find them individually now, but they will do that. So, yeah, fingers crossed they'll still make it. We need them to make it. They're becoming increasingly rare, the nightingales.
We want the nightingales, yeah. What's next, mate?
Bees, mate.
Oh, bees, is it? OK, bees. Thanks. Now, we have been following a very high-tech project down in Bristol, the Bristol Bee Project. Now, the idea of this is to compare country bees and town bees, these are the town bees, to see what differences there are. Now, we've reported on some of the differences so far. The town bees seem to have to stay out of the hive longer to find food. But here is the fascinating question now. Can bees perhaps predict the weather?
Predict the weather.
Predict the weather, can they?
It would make sense. Because if you're a bee, you don't want to get caught out in a thunderstorm.
Good point,
battered
mate.
out of the sky.
Yeah.
You can't forage. What's the point of being there? Why not go back to the hive?
Yes.
Well, they might be able to predict the weather, and they might do that in a way which might surprise you, Martin. They might do it in a way that we've seen you demonstrating yourself in the last couple of weeks.
What can he mean? Oh, well, my hair.
Yes, your hair.
My hair.
It's been putting on quite a show, mate.
It has, hasn't it, really?
Yes, it has, yeah.
Oh, dear. Yeah, that looks a bit...
Well, you say...
Oh, dear.
Oh, very dear. Oh, very dear.
That's not a good look, is it, mate? What do you call my hair? It's my...
Oh, it was your erectile nuptial plumage.
Nice. I don't remember that.
Enough of that. Let me do a little demonstration here.
Can I rub it, mate, a little bit?
What?
My hair. Let me try and do this.
You better do all the rubbing.
I'll do... Is it working?
No, it is working, yes.
There you go.
OK, look, so basically the electrostatic charge...
Oh, hang on, let me do it more.
The electrostatic charge in the balloon... OK, that's it now. You've got a Mohican now. You've got a little sparse Mohican. You've got a Grandad's Mohican there.
OK, good.
Now, look, the electrostatic charge in the balloon is lifting your hair. Hairs are sensitive to that, and bees are completely covered with tiny little hairs. Here they are. You can see them. And what we now think is that we know, actually, that bees approach flowers and they're able to detect whether that flower has an offering of nectar or not because of the charge that the flower's giving off, and they're using their hairs for that. But now there is some evidence to suggest that they're equally using these tiny little hairs to detect changes of the electricity in the air related to weather.
Now, you might think that sounds a little bit far-fetched, but have a look at this graph. This was from yesterday, would you believe? Now, this is bee activity, the dark blue one here, and you can see there's a peak in the bees going back to the hive there at 12 o'clock, and the light blue one is the rainfall building to a massive thunderstorm there. And look, the bees went back to the hive about 2 hours before it started, went in 4 hours. I think that's pretty conclusive, Chris.
So it's almost like they're out, they sense that the weather's going to change, and most of them, the vast majority of those bees, look, when the thunderstorm hits, they're back in the hive.
They're back in the hive, you see. Now if you don't have all that much faith in the bees as predictors of weather...
Or sensitive hair.
Or sensitive hair, I can tell you someone who we can have faith in. It's Nick Miller in the Weather Centre.
Well, Martin, with those intense downpours we've been seeing, those bees won't know whether they're coming or going. In, out, perhaps more out than in this weekend, because they and us will take advantage of quieter weather with fewer showers as high pressure builds in for a time. Not very long, though. Next week, more Atlantic weather systems coming our way, which means more rain for our osprey chicks, for our pufflings on the Farne Islands, for our newly fledged reed warblers at Minsmere. But with the Atlantic in control, more southerly winds rather than easterlies. It looks like the easterlies are to blame for a huge influx of these. You saw them on Springwatch, and now they're making news headlines. The diamond-back moth coming in the tens of millions. Not seen in numbers like this, say the experts, since 1996. Now, they and us will be wondering what's lying ahead for the summer weather. Well, the computer models are finally poised at the moment. I'll be looking over the next few weeks. Looks like some dry, warm weather at times, but there'll also be some wetter, showery weather occasionally. It's all shaping up to be fairly typical British summer weather over the next few weeks. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. Whatever the weather, though, no excuse not to go out and do